Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Practice Perfect podcast, episode 6. Hard to believe, already here. Hello, Maya, my lovely co-host.
Hello, hello, hello.
And you all might recognize our special guest today, Mrs. Vanessa Moldovan. Welcome to the show, Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so excited for this one. You know, Maya and I, we get to talk to each other every week, but very rarely do we have a guest on, and we love people to come share the show with us. So thank you for coming on. And Vanessa
Absolutely. I
has
love
been
you
on
guys. So
previous.
this is easy. This is easy.
Yeah, we love each other. Like we're gonna have a good time today.
Yeah,
And
totally.
yes, I was telling everyone offline that I just spoke at RevCon yesterday, so I'm all pumped to talk about revenue cycle today. And so all of you know, Vanessa is the CEO and founder of For the Love of the Revenue Cycle. So before we get started today, Vanessa, tell our audience, those who don't know you, which is hard to believe if anyone doesn't know who you are, but those that don't know Vanessa, how did you get started in healthcare and what are you doing now?
How I got started in healthcare actually was I didn't know really what to do with my life back when I graduated high school. I was interested in a lot of things. I was pretty, smart, and people were telling me what to do with my life, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to figure it out. So, my dad was a nurse at the time at the local hospital. I'm from a very small cow tipping kind of town. And so he was like, why don't you, we'll get you a job at the front desk. We'll see if you like healthcare. And that was 1996, I think, 5, 6, something like that, long time ago. So really the rest is history. I didn't survive very long in the ER. That was ER front, registration, saw the action. I am not good with, I'm way too empathetic. So I was like, can I go in the back, like where I look at numbers only and not patients? But anyway, but once I got into the back, I just loved it. And so that's how I got into healthcare. That's how I got into revenue cycle when I moved to Chicago in 2006. I got into physician revenue cycle, and that was really when really kind of the love story happened. For the love of revenue cycle was that was when that started. And then what I'm doing now is in April of last year, I decided to go rogue and, go on my own and follow, you, Jennifer, in your footsteps, and many of our other colleagues, who have done the same. But basically just decided that I needed to make myself available to more people instead of tying myself down to an individual. I mean, I was making a difference in the companies I was working for sure. But I was having all these people reach out to me, and and I was like, if I was a free agent, I could make a difference with more people. And that's really what I wanted to do. So, and that's what I'm doing now. So I primarily work with technology companies to help them build revenue cycle technology that's really meaningful in the industry, and helping them to sell it in a meaningful way so that the healthcare side like gets it. And they're like, oh, right, this is going to be, meaningful. And then I also have revenue cycle services and consulting technology optimization, all that stuff too. So that's what I'm doing now. And I'm doing podcasts. I still have my podcast as well. And then just talking about industry stuff and keeping in touch with people who are boots on the ground, and what's going on in the industry, so that we can really be impactful to what they're experiencing, which I think is part of what we're going to be talking about today.
Exactly. And I want to let everyone know, yes, please go check out Vanessa's podcast, For the Love of the Revenue Cycle. It's a great show. And I feel like a lot of people out there are struggling. They need the help. And that's what the show is all about. So Maya, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing with your clients in the revenue cycle. What are the struggles that people are having right now that you're seeing?
I think we only have an hour, maybe. So
I know, right?
it's just, I think the biggest connection of the problems that I see is lack of understanding, the know-how, what to do, how to do it. And because everybody has their own perception of why the problem is occurring, people are addressing it different ways. And so the eye-opening moment is when, we come in and we say, um, do you have this kind? Or do you talk to these? And it's like, well, they never, or I never. And it's like, "Mm, that's
Mhm.
important. They're handling your money. You should
Mhm.
be in constant contact with people who are handling your money, because they're the reason why you either are or you aren't, right? And so, when those types of conversations occur, the aha moment occurs, and then they move towards the next. And
Mhm.
so,
Right.
the point that we want to make is that the know-how is the next. And once you
Mhm.
understand what the next is, you're able to move on and be, impactful, like Vanessa said.
Mhm. Yeah, I completely agree. I
Definitely.
mean, this is one of the core issues that I have found within the revenue cycle is lack of that standard education. And part of that is knowledge of tools and resources. When I used to do a lot of speaking engagements for APC, one of my favorite ones was the was one I did on tools and resources. And on the APC website, there's a website with like links to all the American academies and all the major website, and every single time I did, they were like, "What?" And they didn't even realize, how they could use it to help them with resolving denials and resolving claims. But because we don't have that standardized education, we really have to depend on each other, in the industry, and depend on these conversations. But I would agree that I would totally agree with you, Maya, that's a core thing, is just that understanding of all kinds of payer reimbursement, how healthcare industry works, all that stuff.
Hmm.
Right. And then for those of us out there listening who are new to revenue cycle, or you're just trying to get a better handle on it, we think about the revenue cycle. It's the cycle from the time the patient comes in the office, the time you get paid,
Yeah.
but it also includes the fact you get to keep your money, right? Like you want to keep it and use it for the intention that you had. So everything that we do on the business side of healthcare is part of the revenue cycle. Everyone's involved. For
Yeah.
everyone who talks to the patient, who gathers information on the patient, is involved. Coders, billers, physicians, the clinical staff are all part of the revenue cycle because they're involved
Hmm.
in collecting patient information and patient data that is protected, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's all part of it.
Hmm.
Everyone's involved, but we want to get paid. Like that's the whole. I mean, that's
Hmm.
not the whole reason we do this. I mean, obviously,
Hmm.
physicians, the good ones, they go into healthcare because they want to make a difference, they want to help people, but they also know they have to make money to keep it going.
Hmm.
So we want to get paid. But then we feel like in this country we live in, that's how healthcare works. We can I struggle with this saying this out loud, but I have to say it. This country has made healthcare a business,
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
flat out. We don't live in Canada. We don't live in the UK or anywhere else. We live in the United States.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
it's
So
so
we all,
unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, we've I would even say weaponized healthcare, right? Let's just
Hmm.
talk about it. Let's just
Hmm.
keep it real. They weaponize healthcare because if you don't, these are the ramifications. You
Hmm.
have these regulatory entities, and I won't.
Hmm.
Weaponizing is a very strong word, but
It is. Hmm.
I think it's something that we need to start thinking about,
Hmm.
so that you can
Hmm.
counter the
Hmm.
weaponizing. The great
Hmm.
weaponizing is to have a great
Hmm.
defense, right? And so when you
Hmm.
understand those types of things and how it becomes a threat, right? The doctors are not
Hmm.
getting paid, the insurances are not
Hmm.
paying. Then you have, these breaches, right?
Hmm.
That have these occurrences. So it
Hmm.
becomes, a weaponized type of
Hmm.
venue, because without the protection, you become
Hmm.
a victim.
Well, and I
So
mean, providers do feel threatened, right? I mean, every time their
Mhm.
medical necessity is questioned, every time they have to get a prior authorization for something, and then they go in and they happen to change the procedure that they do, and then it's like now it's a possibility of losing reimbursement for what they mean. I mean, absolutely, their livelihood is threatened by that because they're not going to get, the reimbursement. So I would absolutely agree. And I mean, I've even talked with representatives from insurance companies and caught them instead of saying patient, saying customer, and it's like I
yeah,
hate that. I hate
yeah,
that when they
Mhm.
refer to patients as customers, and because that's showing, like Jennifer was saying, that we're changing this into a business, and it's still patients, even though it's revenue cycle and it's revenue. It's patients and it's patients' lives and it's their experience. This is part of their, experience with their physician. I was talking to a cardiologist when I was at Vive, and And he was like, you know what? All I want is to just be able to treat my patient and not have to have a conversation with them when they're in the room about their bill. You know, they're so
Oh,
unhappy about their financial, they love me as a provider, but they're so unhappy with their financial experience that they're consider going somewhere else. And it's
Yeah.
just, it's really sad. Sad.
Yeah.
what can you
Yeah.
do? I mean, honestly, there's so many things that could go wrong, and
hmm
you. This is the deal: is that either the insurance pays for your patient services or they do. That's the
hmm
only options you have.
hmm
And so you have to understand the bulk of the money you get is coming from the insurance if you accept that, or you're
hmm
going to be a concierge cash pay physician,
hmm
whatever you decide. But if you decide to accept insurance, you got to play the game, and you need
hmm
people on your side that know how to play the game. There's a lot of
hmm
people out there that try to play the game, but they don't know the
Mhm.
rules.
hmm hmm
They're not inexperienced, and they could get better if they had the right resources. So
Right.
there's that. But think about just the denials themselves. So let's break that down. Denial versus rejection. You send the claim that you validate is correct on your side,
hmm
right? You get a denial, but you might get a rejection. And I think there's a
hmm
disconnect. Some people don't even know the difference between those two things.
I know.
And
I
they don't
say it
know
all the
how to
time.
solve those, right? So
Yeah. And
Vanessa,
yeah. Yes.
tell
All
us,
the
what
time I'm
is the
making
difference?
this distinction. Now, I will have to say that if you work on the institutional side of billing, their Medicare does have a post adjudication term of rejection, and sometimes this gets confusing. So when we talk about the language of revenue cycle, which oftentimes you do have to stop for a minute and make sure, are we speaking the same language? And so there are Medicare rejections post adjudication for institutional side. For physician billing or pro fee billing, you know, a rejection is pre-adjudication. It occurs in the clearinghouse. It's a result of a 277CA EDI report. So where you're getting your acceptance or you're getting your rejection, right? You've submitted your
Absolutely.
claims. They're giving you a response. They've either accepted it or they've rejected it.
Right.
You can't appeal a rejection. Your only option
Right.
is to right? Your only option is to correct the claim or send a whole new claim because it's a whole new payer or something like that.
Right. Right.
But you cannot appeal it, right? And rejections are lower cost to collect. So that's why oftentimes you'll see where we're purposefully creating these rules and these edits to reject our claims purposefully
Yes.
to
Front end
correct them,
edits. Yeah.
right, front end edits to correct them before they go to the insurance company to be adjudicated, because post adjudication denials have a very high cost to collect, and all these studies show that like your chance of even getting your revenue goes down like 50% after it gets to the payer. So
Absolutely.
fixing it right, so we even purposely reject things because of the cost to collect. So very big differences between rejection and denial. Denials will come to you on an ERA or on an EOB. They're marked by a denial, what we call a denial code. You can appeal them. You can send a corrected claim that, you know, this is how you resolve them. But they are post adjudication. So
Yeah, and one thing that
Right.
I also wanted to kind of enlighten folks is those EDI reports or those electronic reports can be used to prove timely filing,
oh,
as
always,
long as
yeah,
and but a lot of people don't know that
yeah,
because they don't
yeah,
print them out. You need
yeah,
to
yeah,
print them
yeah,
out on a daily basis
yeah, yeah.
because that is your list of accepted
Mhm,
claims. So that
mhm,
if there's ever a denial or anything that
mhm,
states that you didn't return the claim in
mhm,
time, if you have
mhm.
that report, that
Yeah.
is the means for you to collect your money because you did
Mhm,
do it in a timely fashion
mhm,
and it was accepted. So it didn't meet
mhm,
any type of issues, HIPAA issues or what have you,
mhm,
as it
mhm,
being rejected. So that's also
mhm.
something that we need to think
And
about.
it's literally the payer. The payer is saying they accepted. So like it's like, dude, you already said you accepted this, right? And this is where you know what I mean. So you can't reject it, right? Because you can't deny it for timely because you accepted it. But this is also where we have the case for sending as much electronically as possible, right? Stop sending on paper, right? The cost for sending on paper with envelope stamps and everything, it's like $7 and something cents. Sending electronically is like 0.02 cents or something, you know. And there are so many clearinghouses now, or they now go by revenue cycle, you know, management software companies, where they will send even your paper claims. They will send on your behalf for, you know, a quarter of the price of what you send it internally. And guess what? You get that digital stamp so that if you do get a timely filing denial, you have the digital stamp, even though it was sent paper. So you
Yeah.
have something to fight with. Otherwise, if you're sending a paper out of your office, you are SOL, right? We all know that.
Right.
Right, if it went paper out of your office. So yeah, so as much as you can use that technology. The other thing too is proof of timely filing letters in your clearinghouse. Listen guys, it's 2025. If your clearinghouse doesn't provide you with an automatic push a button and boom, I have a proof of timely filing letter with all my acceptance report, you need to move on. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Mhm.
So
I
Real
have to say,
talk, sis.
Vanessa,
Real talk.
you told
I
me to be
haven't
myself,
heard
Jennifer.
I haven't heard SOL in a long time. That takes me back.
I'm gonna be
Wait,
like
I love
beeped
it
out.
so much.
Vanessa, that's that Chicago talk.
I know.
I love it. You Chicago ladies are fun. I love it. I love it. Well,
I mean, that's how it is,
like I
and that
said,
is revenue cycle, Jennifer. To fight for our money, to fight for the
that's
money
what we're
for the
doing, right?
providers.
We're trying
That's
to
what we
fight.
do.
We're fighters.
Yep.
And so yesterday, like I said, I spoke at HealthCon. Excuse me, not HealthCon, RevCon. I spoke at RevCon on prior authorizations, right? So that's one area of revenue cycle. It's a piece of the puzzle where we spend, I think the billions of dollars that are spent on the process of prior authorizations is just insanity. And
Gross.
the amount of money we spend on it, staff-wise, technology, whatever it is. And so there's a process that we go through with that specifically. But it is something where it is affecting claims. And so understanding that, but like I say, you can get a prior authorization all day long. It doesn't mean you're getting paid, because what we're missing is reading the policy. And that's what I want to talk about next. Is there's so many policies out there. A lot of organizations just really struggle to keep up with everything, but a lot of them just don't even know where to find things. And that's what I like to do. I like to show someone who has never done this, like how to navigate an insurance website. Some of them are pretty simple, others are not, but they're somewhere. The policies are there. And they, you know how it is. It's like if they make something harder to find, it's possible that there's a reason for that. They don't want you to find it, because then you're going to find out how to fight their denials.
Yep.
But they're there.
And let me just say to Jennifer that there's a couple things here. I'm itchy. It's killing me here. Prior authorization. It's a trigger. It's a trigger, right? So there's a couple things here. Number one is that you talk about weaponizing, right? Prior authorizations, but so policies need to be implemented front end. The access of policies is front end and back end. You know, we need to have access to them for, you know, because like you said, you can cross your T's, dot your I's, you could still get denied. But also remember that, you know, we do live, literally we're in 2025. So if you're pulling these policies up, no matter how you're finding them, like we talked about, that there's all these resources out there, there's technology that can find it for you, where you have just one login, you can have access to all of them. They give you updates, like it's amazing. But there's technology out there that will read a policy to you, that will find exactly where you need to go for what you're researching and for what you're trying to get approval for. You know, do not do the hard work anymore, right? There's so much out there that reduces that administrative burden, because the fact is the payers try to make it harder for us. And so make it easier for yourself, right? Administrative, there's so many things where administrative burden has been solved for. And if you are using if you're currently using something to help you out, which I hope that you are, work with that vendor to make it better. This is my experience. This is really what a lot of what I do now, right? Like I said, is work with technology companies. They don't know, right? They know technology. We know revenue cycle, right? But they're so eager to learn. They are so eager to learn. They want to get it right. They want to make something that works, because if it works, they get to sell more, right? But they also want to help the industry, right? But so if there's something that's kind of off and you're just like, oh, if they just did this, then tell them so they can get it right. Because currently, you guys, like I was just at Vive. I saw lots of demos, lots of presentations. As far as my eyes have seen, no one has completely solved for this yet. You know, so it's, in my opinion, it is up to people like us who know these processes, who know the payers, who know what's happening boots on the ground, to help these Policy Reporter and all of these, companies who are trying to make this easier to get it better. So to make our jobs easier to bring in that money, because this is where I personally believe that term weaponized, it is just
Yeah.
nightmarish how it's being used.
And
Mm-hmm.
it was really interesting that we're talking about prior authorizations because at the AMA symposium, they introduced a prior authorization incentive that was really, really long-winded, and it was like,
Uh-huh.
okay. Yeah, so it was like people
Yeah.
who are really like boots on the ground, like you say,
Yeah.
Vanessa, they're just
Yeah.
like, how is that,
Mm-hmm.
are you sure you want to
Yeah.
go that way? Okay, well, I'll
Yeah.
let you know. And so,
Yeah.
when we think about that, in addition to, let's just keep it real, folks, when people get authorizations and then the claim is sent out and the lack of indicating that authorization number that goes on the
Mm-hmm.
claim
Yep. Yep.
or
Mm-hmm.
matching what you're
Yep.
getting pre-authorized,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big deal. And if you don't get it matched, right,
Mm-hmm.
then you got to start all over, or you got to just submit the claim without the prior authorization because
Mm-hmm.
it became modified. That's a
Mm-hmm.
huge difference. And people need to realize that what you submit for pre-authorization needs to match what you're
Yeah.
sending on the claim. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be denied.
Yeah. Yep. It'll
Right.
be denied. And also there's this whole thing that they've also figured out to do where they pull in these third parties now that do the prior authorization. So now you have to play that game because as someone who's doing error follow-up, they call the payer for status and the payer's like, oh, we don't do it. Third party does it. So now you have to call the third party, right? And the third party's like, we sent it over to the payer. You have to call the payer. And then you're back. And it's this whole tennis match is super, super, super frustrating because it's up to the third party to approve the prior authorization, but then that third party is supposed to send the authorization number. The insurance company is supposed to attach the authorization number to the service date. If all that doesn't work, and how many times does it work? Let's be real, right? And if all of that has to work, and then you still might get paid, you might not get paid. And you know how, Jennifer, how you were saying, like in the adjudication process, it's the patient, the insurance company pays, but guess what? The provider sometimes eats it too, right? Because
Oh yeah.
adjudication is literally, the definition of adjudication is just making a decision. And with payers, it's deciding who's financially responsible. And it's either them, it's the provider, or it's the patient. And with prior authorization, most of the time in the contracts, the prior authorization, it's either the provider or it's the insurance company, and the patient cannot be billed per their
Mm-hmm.
contract. So it's so
Yeah.
painful for providers. And really quick, before I know you guys want to talk to, but I just want to say this really quick because I've been trying to get this word out, and maybe you guys can help me with this too, is the importance of contracts. The importance of having access to your contracts. And I know we could do a
You
whole
read my
entire episode
mind.
about this, right? You have to have access to your contracts. This is another thing too that I've been screaming at these technology companies is, listen, guys, having OCR and like searchable fields, this is not what I'm talking about, guys. Like there's ChatGPT, there's AI, there's all of this stuff. I'm talking about real access, because now we are trying to pull out all of our weapons, like you said, Maya, to fight these denials, to fight what the payers are, so not having access to a policy, right? You call, you're like, hey, why'd you deny this? Based on blah, blah, blah. Can I have access to that? I'll try to find it. I'll call you back. They never call back. And you can't get access to it. Well, guess what? That's a violation of a contract.
Yeah.
How can I prove that? I got to get access to my contract. My entire 20-year career, I never once saw a contract. It was like,
I've seen
it
them.
was some
Mm-hmm.
kind of like protected, in some, like it was the Raiders of the Lost Ark or something. Like, it was like, we can't get to it. We have to have access to these contracts. So I just like beg organizations, give everybody access to it. Technology companies, give us the appropriate ability, because those contracts are ridiculous, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
you guys have read them. They're ridiculous. They're
Yeah.
pages and pages and pages, right? We need to have
I
human
read them.
access to it.
Yeah, I
Exactly,
read them.
Jennifer.
I mean,
Exactly.
I've learned how to read
Exactly.
them. I mean, you got to find the
Yeah.
language. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just talk about it for a second. There's a couple
Yes.
things in a contract that I always recommend providers look at. So once you have access to your contracts and you get them legally, whether you have to get legal involved in getting them,
Mm-hmm.
but they tell you specifically certain code sets, like your E&M
Yep.
codes. Maybe they're going to split up the percentage you're going to get. So usually how it works with the fee schedule is it's a percentage of Medicare. So Medicare
Yep.
pays a certain rate. Your goal is to negotiate a certain percent of Medicare. Unfortunately, nowadays, it's hard to even get 100% of Medicare with some payers, which is ridiculous to me. I mean, you should
I
at
know.
least get Medicare rates and then maybe get some more, but those days are gone. Like, it's almost impossible. So if you have a contract in place that already has that higher than Medicare, you're probably good. You don't want to try to renegotiate that because you'll
Right.
probably get a lower rate at this point.
Yeah.
But you also want to check things like, what is their policy on prior authorizations? It's one of the
Yeah.
biggest clauses
Yeah.
in a contract that I tell my
Mhm.
clients to look for, and I look for it when I help them. But
Yeah.
there's other things that we look for, but there's so much like white noise and just all kinds of jargon in there that they don't understand. But you need someone like one of us that is well seasoned in understanding their language. So we know if a rejection happens, what is your process? What are you required to have in place? And some of them have so much language that it's hard to read, but you could be in so much trouble for violating their contract. You need to know what their requirements are, because a lot of providers or clinics and facilities, they violate insurance contracts all the time. Things as simple as not collecting copays. Like, there's clauses in there. There's things about compliance. There's so much in there that you have to read. But then again, you can use the contract to your advantage, like we talked about, to help, go after.
I mean,
these
how many
denials that
providers,
are not
Jennifer,
valid.
do you guys see write off so much money because they don't understand their contracts? It's so heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
understand their rights. They don't understand they can escalate things. They don't understand they have a provider network consultant. You're literally contracted with this payer. It's heartbreaking. Well, I just wrote it all off. We can't do anything about it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's
How much
so
of that money
heartbreaking.
did you already spend on staff, on the
Yes.
lights,
Yeah.
and the
Yes,
computers?
exactly.
I mean, and even
Yeah.
when you think about the larger organizations who have that automated write-off process, and then you
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
smaller organizations who are really counting on every penny that they
Every
get that
penny.
comes into. So, and I wanted to say this because I've been involved with some interesting cases in this regard, and not only is it contract driven, but it's also state precedented.
Yeah.
So you have to understand the rules and regulations that are associated with your state and the language that's within the contract, because some contracts can make the difference on how you get paid based upon the agreed rates of what is negotiated. And I'll just say that. And some of them are based upon the build amount, like a certain amount of build amount that's over. And if if they're that, I'll just say this. Be careful of how you sign your contracts and what you agree to with the insurance companies, because they can either, get take advantage of what you signed, and you not realize that you're getting all these access to these patients, but the money that you're losing for the amount of patients that you're getting is not going to be worth having the contract. So think about the next time you sign a contract, have an attorney or somebody in compliance review those granularities. I've seen cases where they have millions of dollars because of one paragraph that everybody overlooked.
Yeah. And that's part of your guys' specialty, right? I mean, you guys are compliance, and do you guys review contracts? Is that part of what you
We
guys do?
if that we're asked to. So on the credentialing side of
Okay.
our services, sometimes they'll
I
have
review.
us look at both. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, and Maya's an expert witness, and so I mean, she's had her hands in lots of contracts. I have done it for a couple clients, but mostly I stick on the credentialing side. But yes, I mean, it's something I do anyway. Like if I'm doing a review of their denials to kind of see a workflow management, for instance, if I'm doing a workflow assessment, I want to see where the bottlenecks are in a practice. I pull reports, right? And then I want to see, I want to track down how this gap in communication happens. Not that I want to blame anybody, but we want to see where it came down to. So we asked for the contracts. We asked for this. There's a great company, by the way. I'm going to shout out to Sliced Health. I love them. I've seen their software, and it actually will read your contracts, and then it actually will pull the claims. for that payer,
Mhm.
and it will isolate every time you were underpaid.
Yeah.
According to the
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
contract.
I
And
pretty
know
so
one
it's
too.
cool.
great.
Yeah. Recon
It's
Health does
just
the
like,
same thing too. It's amazing.
I love
It's
that.
amazing.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot of potential out there for improvement and
Mhm.
letting
Mhm.
technology work for you, because we're all about working
Mhm.
smarter, not harder, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
We
But it's
don't have
go ahead.
time for manual
Mhm.
tasks anymore. It's
Mhm.
it's not 1993, it is 2005.
Mhm. But I think
Right.
it's
So
so ingrained in us, those of us who have been around since 1990, it's so ingrained in us to do it manually, but we've got to
I
think out of the
mean,
box. Okay. Maya
Yeah.
has to say, she wants to say
No,
something.
I just wanted to say that
So
it's
true.
about a return on investment. Stop
Yes.
thinking that
ROI.
it's so much money to do
I know.
automation or
I
this.
know.
There
So
is
true.
a return on investment if
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
invest in
Mhm.
your practice and the money
Yes.
that you get.
Tell
Please
it.
stop
Tell it. Tell
thinking.
it.
Please.
Yes.
Preach.
It's
Yes. Yes.
all
Look at your
right.
cost to collect, your current cost to collect, and look at what it's going to look like after you implement that technology. Now, I have an entire episode on how to really, vet a technology and when you're having a demo, like, because
Mhm.
they're not all great and they aren't all going to help. Sometimes based on your workflows and your operations, it actually will make it worse. But there's so much out there that there are some that you'll find one that will help, solve your problems. But, be careful. We help with vendor selection, if you ever need that. But
Yeah.
absolutely, Maya. There's no question that it reduces cost to collect and there's a return on investment. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that,
absolutely.
we've discussed, what the problems are,
Mhm.
what solutions are there to help you. And I
Mhm.
think, we could talk all day about this, and we will progress with this topic over time here on this podcast. But if I could say, like, the top 3 takeaways
Mhm.
is, you got to make sure the data you're collecting is correct. Make
Mhm.
sure you're not just trusting the information going out, but you're auditing and you have compliance checks in place. And then try your best to strengthen your denial management and follow-up process. Now, that's where the problem is that I think people don't understand how to have a strong denial management process, because the
Mhm.
denials are going to
Mhm.
come no matter how savvy your staff
Mhm.
is. Doesn't matter
Yep.
how good your coders are, how good your
Mhm.
documentation is, the denials are not going to go away. They're going to happen
Mhm.
regardless.
Mhm.
Yesterday, we had Stephanie Sojourn talk about inpatient denials, and just on the inpatient side, what a hospital goes through to try to collect on a
Mhm.
denial. And it was
Mhm.
really cool because she works on the payer side. And so
Mhm.
for an actual payer. And so it was really interesting to hear her perspective on the actual take from a payer side, what they go through, the people
Mhm.
behind the scenes trying to process claims. And I feel it. I could feel
Mhm.
their frustration too,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
they're looking at information that is just ridiculous. I mean, when
Mhm.
I am talking to one of my clients on credentialing and they don't give me all the things I need, I
Yeah.
want to pull my hair out, because like I
Mhm.
am just
Mhm.
like at a dead stop. I can't even process this enrollment for you
Oh,
because you haven't given me all the pieces of information I've asked for.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
want to just like, I don't even know what I want to do. I want to go
Mhm.
drink. I don't know. I just need a drink sometimes when I deal with this.
Oh,
That's
I
what
know.
payers feel. And they feel
I
like,
know.
I
It's true.
asked you to send me this
Yeah.
information
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
didn't give it to me. What is this
I
I'm
know we
looking at? What are you
complain about
thinking?
not getting paid, and they're like, "How about sending us a nice clean claim?" And it's true. It's true because there's all kinds of organizations out there. So
yeah.
This is
yeah.
true. So again,
Yeah,
there's
and which
things
is
you can
great. There's
do.
empathy. We need to have empathy on both sides. We need to have collaboration. Like none of this is going to be fixed by, frankly, violence, which was, horrendous. And none of it's going to be fixed by just arguing and calling and being upset with people when you call the customer service. And it's not going to be fixed that way. We need to have collaboration. We need to have conversations of like, hey, this is what we're experiencing. How can we help you? How can you help us? Collaborating with technology companies, collaborating to come to solutions. That's what's going to, help fix it.
Agreed.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, well, I think this is a great chat. We are going to put our lovely guest's information in our show notes for you, how to find her podcast and how to hire Vanessa if you're a technology company. We also wanted to announce that we are in collaboration with For the Love of the Revenue Cycle currently. A lot of great things coming.
Yes.
Vanessa and her team are our official revenue cycle team that we use at Healthcare Inspired. And so if you have any needs for billing or AR management technology, we always collaborate with Vanessa. So our clients will be referred to Vanessa because she is her company is our official revenue cycle company. So we are very excited.
And
for
you're
the
my official
collaborations.
clients. You guys are incredible. I mean, seriously. I'm just like, as soon as people say the C word, I'm like, hello, Jennifer McNamara, and my turn. I mean, I'm just like, yeah, you guys are just so good at that research. Yeah. Highly
so
recommended.
You can go to healthcareinspiredllc.com and go to our About Us page, our advisors. You find Maya, myself, and Vanessa. And of course, you can visit For the Love of the Revenue Cycle. Vanessa, what is your website address for our audience, and how can people?
It's ftlorc.com. So For the Love of super easy. I did it. You're welcome that I didn't do For the Love of Revenue Cycle.com. It's ftlorc.com. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And you can find her on social media.
Yes.
And a lot of other places. She speaks at a lot of conferences. So you won't have any shortage of ways to find Vanessa. And thank you again for joining today.
Yes.
Next week, we have an amazing guest as well. We have Rochelle Marding, JD, coming on the show to talk about Medicare Advantage plans and prioritization. So,
man.
So it's be fun to hear her take. I can't wait.
Oh, the stories I could tell. Yeah. Have fun with that one.
Well, thanks,
this has been fantastic.
Have a great week.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
yeah,
so
this
much.
is really cool. Yes.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.